Breaking news just overnight. Israel now carrying out a narrow strike against Iran and is assessing its effectiveness and the damage caused. The action appears to be limited in an effort to try to avoid escalation.
Let's get a live report from the region. NBC's Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv. Raf, good morning.
Melissa, Andrew, good morning. For nearly a week, the world has been waiting to see how Israel would respond to that massive barrage of Iranian drones and missiles. This morning, we have an answer, and it does not appear, at least at this moment, that we are hurtling towards further escalation. Here's what we know. A source familiar with the situation tells me Israel carried out a, quote, limited strike inside of Iran in response to that attack. Israeli officials have spent the last couple of hours assessing the damage and effectiveness. The target appears to have been a military base near the city of Isfahan. That's a couple of hours south of Tehran. And it is not clear at this point whether the attack was carried out with fighter aircraft, with missiles, with drones. The U.S. did get at least a generalized heads up from the Israelis that this strike was coming, according to a source familiar with the situation. The U.S. making very clear it was not directly involved in this attack, and American forces across the Middle East on high alert in case Iranian retaliation would target any of those outposts across the region. But at this point, both Israel and Iran appear to be downplaying the attack this morning. The Iranian President Raisi, speaking in the last hour, made no mention of this whatsoever. Iranian state media has been stressing that the situation in Isfahan is calm, that people are going about their daily business. The Iranian military is saying the explosions that people heard in the early hours of this morning were Iranian air defense missiles going off. They are not, at this point, pointing the finger of blame at Israel. They are not promising retaliation. And here in Tel Aviv, Israeli officials on the record are neither claiming responsibility nor denying responsibility for this attack. This appears to be a measured diplomatic approach. They are not crowing. They are trying to give the Iranians space, at least, to not retaliate. That is what the U.S. and other countries have been hoping would happen. It's worth noting the Israeli military has not imposed any new restrictions on the civilian population here in Israel. That appears to be an indication that right now, at least, they are not bracing for major retaliation. And in the next hour or so, we are expecting to hear from Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He's speaking at a G7 meeting in Italy, and that will be the first time we are hearing officially from the Biden administration since this morning's attack.
Israel launching a limited direct military attack on Iranian soil. The news comes days after Iran launched its first ever direct attack on Israel in the form of more than 300 drones and missiles. NBC's Richard Engel joins us now from Jerusalem with more. Richard.
So this strike was limited. An Israeli official telling NBC News that the strike took place. Iranians say that a military base near the city of Isfahan was targeted. But even the Iranians are downplaying this, with state television showing pictures from Isfahan with life as normal. One anchor on state television said that this was, quote, no big deal. Here in Israel, they have not imposed any new restrictions or guidance. People are not being told to go to shelters or limit their behavior in any way. People are out on the streets here in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, very much the same. Israel had promised to respond to the Iranian attacks, which were triggered by an initial Israeli strike on an Iranian diplomatic facility in Syria. But it does seem now, after this limited strike, that both sides, judging the reaction that we're seeing, are trying to pull back from the brink and not have this spill into a regional war. So we did see a strike this morning, limited in scale, and so far the reaction has been quite muted.
Has Iran even attributed the attack to Israel?
The suggestion in Iran is that this was Israel, and if the commentators on Iranian television are describing it as a win for Iran. They're saying that what happened a few days ago, over the weekend, when Iran launched more than 300 ballistic missiles, drones, cruise missiles, that Iran sent such a strong message to Israel that Israel was afraid to do anything more than the most minimal kind of attack that it carried out this morning. So both sides are trying to walk away from this with a win, and that, frankly, is a very positive sign for regional peace, or for the possibility of this escalating to a direct conflict between Israel and Iran, drawing in the United States.
The reports here sound like this was carefully calibrated. Do you agree?
It was a very limited strike, and if you look around the streets of Israel, you would hardly know that anything happened. There have been no instructions given to the public for people to take shelter. Traffic is flowing as normal. People are out. People are shopping. The airport is open, airspace uninterrupted. And that's a pretty strong indication that Israel doesn't expect an immediate counterstrike and tried to calibrate its response. And what's interesting is Iran is also downplaying this. We've been talking over the last couple of days how Iran has been making threats, was threatening fire and brimstone, that if Israel attacked, it would immediately respond with a ferocious attack of its own. But instead, what Iran is saying is that since this attack on the airbase, an airbase in Isfahan, was so small that it's a sign that Israel was intimidated, that Israel was too afraid to do more, and therefore painting it as a success for Iran. So if both sides can walk away feeling that this was a victory, that is a best-case scenario, because that is how you de-escalate all conflicts around the world. You give each side an off-ramp. So this is not over, but things are looking like we are heading potentially toward a de-escalation of this part of the conflict, of the direct Iran versus Israel head-to-head. We attack your country, and we'll respond by attacking the other directly.
Why that target in Iran, and who's there, what's there, and is that not in itself a sign that they're not going after, obviously, really populated areas that could have caused a terrible, terrible tragedy of life?
So this was a military base in Isfahan, just outside of Isfahan. Isfahan is in central Iran. It is a historic city. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, really, certainly one of the most beautiful in Iran. There's an expression in the country, Isfahan Nus Jahan. It means Isfahan is half the world and contains half the world's beauties. It has arches, it has mosques, grand bazaars, a wonderful place, but it also has a military industrial component. The uranium enrichment site is there. Natanz, the biggest one in the facility. That was not attacked. It was not touched. In fact, Iranian TV put out pictures today showing the main circle in Isfahan with traffic flowing as normal. Iranian state television anchors were telling people that things were, that they should live their life as normal. One saying that the Israeli strike was no big deal. They showed life continuing in that country. So it seems that Israel chose that because there's also a missile production facility there that produces medium-range missiles. When Iran attacked this country, it used ballistic missiles that fired. They were almost all shot down, but that they were fired here. So it seems like Israel attacked a missile production area in order to send a message to Iran: A, that it can get through its air defenses, and B, you target us, we'll target your military facilities. And by the way, Iran's main target in Israel was also a military base.